Okay, let's make sure volume is on. Okay, check. Okay, that seems to be working. Cool. Just going to put the VR on so you guys can actually see something more slightly interesting. Give it a few seconds, let anybody who's going to come in immediately come in. Whew. Whew, okay. I act like I just ran a line. No, I had some zip fizz. Ooh, sorry guys, let's go. Okay. So today, what we have on the mission is going from Bozeman, Montana, where we ended off last night. A quick recap of everything we've done, actually. We've done Georgia, near me, over here in the Hampton-Henry County area, and flown up to Nashville. Here-ish, Nashville. We've done Nashville to St. Louis. We've done St. Louis to Kansas City. Kansas City to Sioux City. Where is that at? It's up here somewhere. Nope, Sioux City's over here somewhere. Anyways, Sioux City over to somewhere. Sturgis to Bozeman. Now we're going to be doing Bozeman to Pullman, Moscow. So I'm going to go ahead and get into it. Going to get the flight conditions live. Let me see what live time looks like. Actually, I'm going to reverse it. I like to do live time, but I definitely got on later today than I expected. So we're going to do that. Plus, I don't want the sun in our eyes as we're going west. Kind of a oversight at the beginning, and I'm not going to turn back now. We're only 6 days into 100 days. Definitely better to suffer with that. No, we try to do live weather for everything as much as we can. Or if it's going to be too boring to be IFR through clouds, then we'll hold off a day and give me a break. Okay. Sean, what up? Big screen at your parents' house. Let's get racist today. Also, hello, Mr. and Mrs. Sean's mom and dad. Welcome to Microsoft Flight Sim. And my adventures with that. So, I don't know if I mentioned it to you guys when I was down there visiting. But let's get rid of all that stuff real quick. Adios. But I want to be a helicopter pilot, so I figured I'd start hovering. Sean, you missed a cool guy on here last night. I will discuss that in a bit once we get into it. Anyways, I figured a good way to learn how to fly helicopters was learn how to hover and do emergency situations. And now I like playing Microsoft Flight Sim, so if I can, play this a little bit, get allegedly better, then I'm going to do that. So this is the Bell 222 Bravo, also known as Airwolf, if you're familiar with that show. Retractable landing gear, but this is a downloadable model. It's not a factory one that comes with the game, so I don't have to do any sort of pre-flight inspection to it. And of course, I'm sure Sean can catch you guys up too. You need dopamine for this? Dramamine. Like I said, dopamine. I was like, I am your dopamine. Anyways, my controls move everything like it really would be here in the cockpit. So I get to pretty much get a full one-to-one-ish with an asterisk next to it experience. So anyways, we're going to go on and hit our battery on. I'm going to get my fuel valves on here. Get my fuel priming on each side. That's important, apparently. Let's see. I'm not going to turn the no smoking sign on. Y'all are all homies here. All that's good. We're going to put our anti-collision lights on, which means we have a strobe running, so nobody, hopefully, will walk into our tail rotor as we're going. Fuel pressures and everything look like they're moving. Make sure my fuel quantity's up and topped off. Get that going. And now start assist. Oh, I want engine 1 first. Looks like it's going to do both of them. We'll see if it works. Bold strategy, Matt. See the helicopter moving around some with our giant 2 blades. Master caution can go off. Let's go and turn our generators. Instrument lights on, position lights. We can get our pitot heater. Well, it seems to be going. I got brakes on at the moment. We can turn this slightly up past idle. Or no, is it mad at me because I didn't play with the throttle immediately? Yeah, it is. I needed to add some throttle to it. That was my fault. We're just going to skip that little step of restarting. Flight station. Watching our rotor speed here. I'm going to turn my throttle here with my controller that I have. Hydraulic lights are off. The only caution light that we have left is our rotor RPM and our brakes. Guess what? The rotor RPM is about to fix itself as soon as we get up to operating speed, while keeping our engine torque low. And as soon as you see that in the green there, our rotor RPM light went off there because we're in the green. Throttle's all the way up, so the system is controlling what it needs to, and we are good to go. So let's see. We're going to have to take off because I don't think we'll be able to make this turn. So let's see, I want to take my parking brake off, which I have a button for. But, oh no, don't roll forward. It's not what you're supposed to do. I guess that is what you're supposed to do technically. We're going to kind of do a wheelie and scoot backwards while we can. Okay, looking good, left and right. I have my collective here on the left, pedals and cyclic, everything seems to be moving and working correctly. So we're going to cancel out all of our movements as I'm picking up and try to keep us flat and even. And here we go. let's say we give these guys here a little bit of a show. And add a bit more collected, because I want to suck up my landing gear here while we're low, just because this helicopter looks cool with its landing gear retracted. So, yeah, I know, Master Caution. You know why? Because I'm this low to the ground and my landing gear's up. It's a personal choice, and I'm not looking for your judgment. Shut up. So anyways, all is good. Let's go. Shabunga 93, let's speed by him so he can see how cool I am in a helicopter. Except he doesn't have the 222 model, I would assume. So he's just going to get oh no, he's actually in the PC-12. Oh no. Yeah, so it even gave me the wrong model for him. So let's get out of here before the FAA gets on to us. Okay, so Sean, like I said, there was a cool person in chat that showed up yesterday. His name was Chuck. Apparently he started his helicopter flight school here in Atlanta at Prestige. But the cooler thing was, he's been a fixed-wing pilot, I think he said multi-engine, since 1978. And then in 2021, he decided he wanted to be a helicopter pilot. The three planes Looney Tunes smashed into the runway, I assume that's a satellite imagery that they just ended up being flat airplanes in whatever location. I'll swing over them so we can take a peek. But anyways, so he decided to get his fixed wing in 2021. Or 2019, no, 2021. So what he decided to do, he downloaded Microsoft Flight Sim 2020 and what was the other one? FX12 or something. Yeah, so he downloaded those. There they are. Little building pad over them. He downloaded those bad boys. Got himself a set of peripherals, something like I have. I think something different, no different brand. Yeah, you can kind of see the tail of some of them smashed in there. Got himself a setup similar to what mine is, but whatever it was in 2020. And he did the same thing I did. He taught himself how to hover, just to see if it was something that he was liking or that he'd be into. Anyways, taught himself how to hover, went and did his first lesson, which I've discussed before, but learning how to hover a helicopter is the allegedly hardest thing. Also, I'm going to pause for a second. My hair is getting down into my mask and it's tickling. I'll have to reset my seating once we get back. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Okay, cool. Let's see, scoot forward, up. Okay, back into it. We will no longer bother. Oh yeah, I want to show one thing north of the airport here before we leave. Circle around Bozeman and bother them a little bit more. But yeah, so he did basically the same thing I did when he went to his first helicopter lesson. I've said it before that hovering's the hardest. Usually it's a 10 to 20 hour learning process to be comfortable hovering. He said it took him about 5 minutes to get adjusted to doing it in the real thing. And none of the instructors could believe that he had never actually been in a helicopter before. So that gives a little bit of confidence to my story of how I'm expecting this to feel or to happen. And he was like, as long as you're aware that there are some bad habits that you're going to pick up as you're doing this, you're pretty much good to go. You know, it's, you know that you're going to take your hand off the collective like it is now for me. But as long as you know that you can correct those, then good for you, and you can actually save a lot of time, which means saving a lot of money. Okay, so what we're looking for, I'm going to add some I'm actually going to open up my Google Maps so I can see exactly the building I want to show. I'm flying bad because I'm looking at me maps. Okay, the track directly to the north of it, by the corner. Shut up. It's going to complain at me because it's going to be like, oh no, you're going to be low to the ground. I know. I'm aware. Anyway, so when we're looking at these buildings here, this, not the yellow one. Let me turn off our alarm clock here. The Fun Sucker 6000. Oh, I can't turn it off with that. That's fun. So not this yellow building, but where's my controller? Can I shut you off with the controller? But this one that's right there, that is the shop that Alex Steele, the YouTuber that does the blacksmithing from the UK, when he came to America back in 2019-ish and did a couple of years here, that was the shop that they have their Alex Steele shop at. And that's currently where Will Stelter, who was his partner on the channel for that bit, that's where Will is using his shop at now. Yeah, it was a bit of a validation. Like I said, I never know that, or I won't know until the actual moment if I'm doing what could be the right thing. You know, there's no way to know. Maybe I just have my settings all completely wrong and I'm programming myself the wrong way. I put a good bit of time into making sure I'm doing it as right as possible, you know, but you never know. And I'm relatively technologically inept. If my headset doesn't work for this, I turn my computer on and off. I turn the headset on and off. That's it. I've got no other diagnostic skills getting into this. So, it's questionable of what I expect, like the outcome to be for me doing it. But as far as somebody else having the same thought process of at least like, cool, let's see if I like it, and if it is something that I do like, then I can like take the time and learn how to do the hovering and everything like that, which, like I've said before, my first 100-ish hours, most of it, I think, because it was all Microsoft 2020, it was before 2024 dropped, but like at least the first 100 hours, majority of it was just hovering around a parking lot, doing approaches to different spots, like shallow, steep, standard, learning and figuring out auto rotations, working on pickups and set downs to keep them as still and as level and as stable as possible, and experimenting with different emergency procedures as far as how to handle those. And like, it was all very, very structured simulation, playing, whatever you'd like to consider it. So I'd like to think that I put myself on the right path for that. And him kind of saying that, like you said, it was a bit of a validation. Like, okay, cool. Somebody else had the same idea. Somebody else was as successful as I'm hoping to be with that idea. Of course, he had who knows how many hours doing fixed wing stuff beforehand. I mean, hundreds, if not thousands. Because I don't know if he was a commercial or not. But I mean, it's a good thing for him to say, like, okay, cool. If you're feeling comfortable with the sticks and controls and everything, then work on your radio calls. That was one thing that he said. It was like, hey, download the Saying Intentions add-on, which is like an AI ATC for the game. He was like, run ATC, you know, learn how to use the radio, because that will be one of the hardest things to do outside of flying, because there's so many little different ins and outs, and learn to read your charts and airspaces and everything else. So that's kind of what I'll be doing. Depending on how I feel, I'll do radio calls for the game here. But usually it's fun, like, oh, it's helicopter 42069, say a funny number, you know, or... Anyways, having fun, now have a bit of validation to it, and even though this isn't the best practice doing these flights, it's keeping me busy and sane with what I'm doing now. No radios. I didn't say radios. I meant the hard-mounted communication devices that are mounted in airplanes and helicopters and aircraft so that they can wirelessly communicate with one another and with the ground, so that way they can make sure that they don't have oopsies. I did not say radios. I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, so, good little bit of validation for me. I feel good about that. And also, now is the point of the flight where I have that little bit of existential dread of like, oh man, I'm going to be sitting here for the next 3.5 hours. But that's part of dedicating myself to wanting to do a project. You know, you got to stick it through. Just like a road trip. It's fun when you first get on the road. About 20 minutes in, you're like, whew, man, I got another 10 hours of this before we make it to Miami. And then it's not that bad, because you start seeing landmarks and stuff tick by. Which is a bit of a reason, too, why I've decided to add different waypoints and places to go and things to see. Because it helps mark stuff off the map. You know, we're not going down the almost said radios because I looked at the chat. It's not like we're passing mile marker signs, and it's not like we're getting a super in-depth feel of how far we're going. Like, okay, yeah, the river there is 5 miles away. You know, I'm guessing 5-ish. It's like the river there is 5-ish miles away. You know, I don't feel too connected to that. Also, what am I doing? I can turn off fuel prime. Because we're past the takeoff stage now. So I don't need to worry about that. No smoking sign, don't care, but put your seatbelts on and take them off. I'm in charge. Don't forget it. Get back on course. But cool thing here for this today, I got a later start, so I did tweak the time to keep us more daytime, so we're not getting a killer sunset in our eyes the entire way. But I also did pick the Bell 222 because we can cruise at 130 knots and it's not even trying. So that's a big plus. And here, this is for you guys. Does that feel good? You hear better now? Okay, let's pay attention to what we're doing. Also, if your parents think I'm a horrible pilot, I would like to point out that I don't have self-centering controls. So anytime I move around to do something, my hand's going to move or my leg's going to move or whatever the case is. When I move around to readjust my the VR headset, it goes with me. So we're a bit wobbly sometimes, but it's not that bad. I just deal with it if we're close to the ground because I don't want to risk that. I kind of want to do this entire trip around the world without crashing, obviously. Now, if it's a failure of the game or my controls or the headset or something that's out of my control, I don't want to consider that a loss or a failure. But if I mess up doing something ridiculous, then that's on me. Like last night, for instance, I did a lot of, call it Ukraine flying, where you're down below the tree line and cresting trees, launching the rocket pods and getting back down below the tree line, or doing a hard, like, agricultural spraying U-turn and getting back down below the line. I was doing a lot of that once we got into Bozeman last night, because we had a lot of mountains and stuff that was just boring. But I feel like doing that, if something were to go wrong, I should be punished. Hey, you made it. What's up? Glad you're back, dude. I was just telling Sean about the cool history of Chuck yesterday, but I think you were kind of gone when Chuck was here. But he was kind of validating my my concept of flying for practice and it translating to real world. So, yeah, you do you. Just glad you're here regardless. Sean, on the other hand, I'm glad he's here, but he's cheating my numbers. Believe it or not. I give this man a little wrench next to his name to make him a mod. And then he has 4 people in the room with him. And he's making them all watch it on one screen. Absolutely unreal. But I also don't care about the views either, so it don't matter to me. But I was looking at the analytics from last night. I think we had, like, at one point, like 13 or 14 people watching at the same time. But either way, I don't know if it was just like a Friday night thing where more people are off on Friday nights, or going to be in watching where they're not waking up for work the next day. Or we're going to have similar thing with tonight. I will be in and out, but I'm stoked to see me towards the end, hopefully. Hell yeah. See, now I'm curious that I see somebody near the end. I don't know if that's somebody from the... Are you from the Seaburn Discord or nah? Also, I did get a later start, so I'm about an hour behind schedule. Had a baby's birthday party to go to today. But yeah, just glad you're all here regardless. But yeah, yesterday was a pretty steady night. Started off slow, but Georgia plane spotting down here, Moscow, Russia, not Idaho. I put Idaho in the description specifically for letting people know. Ooh, let's see if we can go grab some IMC. Let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go. Into the soup, into the soup. Suck on that, FAA. Boy, punching air right now, guys. Okay, cool. In the Discord. But yeah, gotta make sure when I get out there that I give my boy Noah the good shout out for his pre-workout. Sean, if you need a good pre-workout to try, Clean Muscle LLC. All natural ingredients. You want the tinglies, you get the tinglies, my man. And it's a homie who's a cool guy. Very based. And then Nathan from Seaburn himself is up in Moscow, Idaho. I could dox him. I do have his address. I may or may not send him stuff every once in a while unlabeled. ATC is giving a number. She sounds cute. I can't believe the freaking air traffic controller was flirting with me. I feel like I'm sitting off. Maybe right just a little bit. Right. Let's see. Yeah, that lines up about with what my stuff is. Yeah, that's about where my cyclic is. Oh, nice. Yeah, I've noticed, I think he prescribes, suggests 2 scoops, which is, I don't want to say a lot, but you definitely get the pre-workout feel. But the taste is significantly better with 2 scoops, I'll say that. So if you're going to do it and you're just going to do like a 1 scoop sort of thing, because 1 scoop's plenty for me because I'm a very simple guy for stuff like that. If you just do 1 scoop, I would say run lower amounts of water. It won't look like it mixes as well, but it will taste significantly better. It'll be more concentrated. But I surely did notice that that particular taste wasn't the best. We're just cruising along. Does this look good? Cool. Sucks that I can't do anything with it, but it's there. So my first stop on today's trip is Butte, Montana. I don't know if you're aware of what cool is in Butte, Montana, or why I would be stopping there, but it's going to be a touristy spot, and it's right near the Burt Mooney, not Burt Mooney, the Burt Mooney Airport. There is a pretty cool place to stop by, which I believe it's way up there on the other side of those mountains. But let's see if you can guess what's going to be our first landmark stop of the day. Butte, Montana. Also, by the way, that's where they filmed 1923, the Yellowstone spin-off series. In fact, the birthday party I went today was for a beautiful little girl named Blake. Today was her first birthday. The father of her, Mikey, he is one of my homies who's actually a very well-renowned picture car mechanic for movies and TV shows and such. And he, for seasons 1 and 2, was invited up to Montana to help them do all the preparations and get everything ready for season 1 and 2 or whatever. And if you don't know 1923, it's based back in the early 1900s. Go figure. So one thing they had and needed to do was to get a lot of old cars. A lot of these old cars are 6-volt systems, so you can't use like 12-volt jumpers with them, so he had to basically invent and make his own 6-volt jumper for any sort of old cars. They did some 12-volt conversions on a few of them, but a majority of them, they actually did full EV swaps, where they did full drivetrain swaps, not Tesla drivetrains, too expensive, whatever, but they would use like Chevrolet Volt or like smaller electric motors and their own battery packs that they developed and whatever for that. But he did many of the vehicles for 1923. And I'm sure they'll be using it into season 3 as well. But he was hands-on season 1 and 2 at least. And I think he was actually up here when he was about to have his first baby, because his wife came up to visit him and they did some very nice pregnancy pictures at a lake or river or something over here in Butte. So there's that. Also, it's wild to me that Montana just, especially Idaho, I'm sure we'll see it much more here later in today's stream, but Idaho being as nice as it is. Now, I don't think we'll be in the right place for it. Let me look at our path. Yeah, we're going to be way, way north. I was going to say we can go docks Grand Thumbs. Plot twist, ATC was a man. Ugh. I hate it when they use that voice. But if we were further south, then I would consider doxing Mr. Grand Thumb, Mr. Mike Jones. Also, there is a cool thing to maybe go see tomorrow. I don't want to do it tonight because we already have a later start, and it's going to be about a 35-minute flight north of Moscow, I believe. But it's a very cool military base in Idaho. So there's two things for anybody watching to guess. What are we visiting in Butte, Montana? And what is cool, military related, north by about 35 minutes of a flight of Moscow, Idaho? Those are your two guesses to, or your two topics to look into and consider. Which the second one, also Mikey told me about both of these. Probably because he was up here and he got to do some exploring while he was in the area. And he used to live in California, so he got a lot of West Coast experience. It's weird that building's out there. Makes me curious about like what sort of things were captured in the satellite view that made it go like, oh, okay, cool. Let's render in a building here with the AI. But yeah, definitely glad that we're going to be over Middle America. I don't know how much better Alaska and Russia's going to be, though. Kind of got a taste of it yesterday going through the Yellowstone Park area. We were at 7,000 to 11,000 feet the majority of the time. And while we were up there and getting through the mountain passes to get into the park and out of the park and down to Bozeman itself, there was a good bit of precipitation on the ground in the form of snow. And snow is, it just makes the ground white. If there's trees, it's great because you can at least get some sort of reference of where the ground is. But it was miserable to fly through, in my opinion. So it's making me think that I may, depending on what, I'll do a scouting thing when we get to Anchorage. So I'll, the day or two before we get up there, because I'll be flying the coast up of Alaska, Canada and Alaska to get up there. But once we get into Anchorage, I'll probably hop on early and do a scout to see how bad it's going to be. But the initial plan is to north out of Anchorage, over McKinley, down and hit one or two different little bush strips, like, I don't know, wherever in Alaska, some rural area that's got a paved runway or a long enough dirt runway where you could land something that runs Jet A, because I'd like to try to refill it. Any sort of runway that I would assume our airport facility that would have Jet A. I don't want to land at mom and pop's backyard airport, which happens to be registered, and then top off with Jet A. I'd like to try to keep as much realism as I can in this as far as flight planning. But Alaska's rural, go figure, and it's big, go figure. So depending on what that area looks like over Alaska, if it's just white and nothing, and there's no trees or nothing exciting, then there's a good chance that we'll add a couple of days to the trip and skirt the coast more, so we at least have a water line to look at underneath of us. I feel like that'd be better for my sanity and anybody viewing. Russia, I cannot do too much about that. Airstrips going down the Russian coast are few and far between, at least on the East Coast. I mean, I guess that's their only coast, really. Their airstrips are far and few in between. There's a handful of heliports and stuff, but I don't know how serious those are. If I find any pictures of them in real life, I'll judge it to see if it looks like it's something that would be believable to stop at. I do have the original course and the courses that people have taken for their trips around the world in helicopter. There's not many people who have done it, but it is a thing. So I have looked at those, and like I know the direction they go, but we're also doing this shortly after winter. So Siberia is probably a whole bunch of frozen tundra still. So I'm kind of also making my decision on going between what's quick, so I'm not doing this for my entire life, and what's interesting enough to watch, or if somebody pops in the stream for the first time and they just see me flying over a completely white ground with a few spotted rocks and stuff every once in a while talking about not radios, that they'll stick around, you know? It's a happy medium. And again, I don't care so much about the views itself. It's more of it gives me something to do if I'm talking. I'll gladly sit here for 3 hours. I'm dumb enough to do that. But it's better with friends. So I'd like to keep it that way. We're going to ask for a bit more torque here. We're up at 7,300 feet, so I can feel the air getting thinner. My collectives. I'm gaining altitude at a good bit, so we'll even push forward and add a little bit of speed into it while we're doing it. Sure, I could go around this, but why do that? When I can live dangerously and go over it and not give myself an out if an emergency happens. Now let's not look at where we're going, you know? Easy enough. Still keeping 120 knots. And I mean, come on, would you look at this thing? Whew. The exhaust pipes there. Shoo! Welcome to Butte, Montana. Big mining town, if you can't tell. So what we're doing, we're coming over here to the airport, Butte Airport. This is helicopter 42069. We are above you in the mountains to your east. We are going to be coming down and visiting the very neat spot just to your northeast, basically touching your property, Butte County Airport. Okay, so none of y'all have guessed it. Very disappointed in you, in fact. I expected better, but I don't know why I did that. But you do have a few seconds, so you'll see we're looking right. Laser pointer, turn on. We're looking right there. Right in that little field right there, near that tree line. We're at the upper range of rotor RPM there, since we're basically in a powered auto. We'll circle this around once, and I'm even going to touch down. Can you tell what it is yet? What are all those little lines and dots on the ground, you may ask? That, my friends, is a cemetery. And not just any cemetery. It's a cemetery in Butte, Montana, which happens to be the final resting place of an absolute legend. Any guesses? A few more seconds before touchdown? Okay, clear the trees. Let's come on down. Gear is down. We got 3 green. So I don't know if we'll be able to pick out the exact one. But I'm going to do my damnedest. On the cushion right there in ground effect. Jump. On the ground, parking brake on. Yet I literally put the parking brake on. You don't have to beep at me. Okay, let's see if I can check my maps and see which one I have saved. Because I did my homework enough. Okay, cool. So, we are looking at the grave of Evel Knievel. You know, the fellow that jumped motorcycles and everything around. This is his final resting place. If I were to pick up slightly and shuffle over here, somewhere under the tree line, about off of our nose, I believe touching the tree line actually, is a black headstone. And that headstone belongs to Evel Knievel. So, now you know. You are now informed of the resting place of a legend that is a household name. Butte, Montana. And once again, that's also the same place that they did 1923. No, I want you up. I want you to shut up. Okay, onward we go. Next stop is already programmed into our navigation unit. It's going to be a bit of a haul on this one, but we are headed to Darby, Montana. Okay, let's stop looking at our phone and stay out of the ground. Kobe. These towers in front of us. That there, and that there. Maybe power lines? Looks like something. Yeah, I think they're some cross-country transmission lines or something. Oh. Oh no, just towers. Strange. That close and that lined up. I wonder if they're important for something. I mean, I'm sure they're important. I wonder what they're doing, or if it's part of an array or something like that. Oh, I will say, plus side for today is we are out of the plains for the most part. And we're going to be doing more mountain flying. So, chasing valleys, we'll be trying to stick to our flight director there on the Garmin's as best as we can. But if altitude becomes a thing, we can work around that a bit better. We can make that work. Big old hills up to the north over there. These people just live out here. Probably happy as hell, too. Imagine the lack of diversity somewhere like this. God. Must be nice. Big valley area up there. It makes you wonder, like, what geological forces that pushed these mountains up and out of there also allowed for that to be as empty as it is. Like, was it glacial activity? Because usually the glacier runs are pretty well identified, especially by the size. But these mountains feed in there relatively normal. Of course, the glacial activity was years and years and years ago. And then this could erode in appropriately. Yeah, we are just going to be throwing some altitude at this here. So I'm going to pull back to 140 knot 4 is plenty. I'm looking at, I'm monitoring my torque to make sure I'm not over torquing. Watching my airspeed here, my vertical speed in feet per minute, so that's 500 with that times 1,000 or whatever. So that 0.5 is 500, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000. My overall altitude there on the altimeter. These old school steam gauges. Looks like our ETA though to Yellowstone area is 28 minutes or so if we keep pace. And 1,000 knots or 1,000 feet per minute ground speed at 130 knots cruising. Not bad. 222 gets it. Now these retractable gear VIP things, very cool. I like them. And I mean, like, look at it. 2 engines with thick old blades up top, little winglets like it thinks it's a little airplane or something. Dang, I got a thing for the 222, the Bravo model at least. It's got to be retractable gear. I'll let twin engine skidded helicopters get by because of the Airbus 135, 140, 145. But I can't think of any other skidded helicopters that I allow a pass that are twin engine. Is the Venom? Is that what they call, like, the newer twin engine version of the Huey? The Venom UHY? U1Y? Something like that. I think it's skidded, but I also think it looks dorky. So, I'm getting a water bottle right now, that's why we're wiggly. That's like, I even like the Bell 429, 427, 429, tomato. They're both cool looking helicopters, but they're kinda dorky. Like, sorry to say, they're super cool, they're super capable. But like, Bell, why don't you have something that's like the 212 anymore? Like, you've got the 222, the 212 is a Huey. Why don't you have something like this again? You've got the 525, but it's giant. You built that to be like a competitor in the offshore market, or like the ultra luxury big mover sort of things. You wanted to compete with getting people out to offshore places, a little bit smaller than like the S92 and the Super Pumas and stuff, but still, it's a big retractable helicopter. But why not something mid-sized, you know? I guess that is mid-sized, but why not something smaller? This thing is so cool. Like, I just imagine anybody that would be, unless they don't think they can compete with Airbus. I just feel like anybody that's looking for a quality helicopter, you got Bell, they make good stuff. Looking for wheels because of whatever reasons or conditions, whether it be VIP stuff. There's a handful of medical operations that use it. I mean, even out here in the area that we're here, Intermountain Life Flight, they're an entire, sorry about the headset movement, they're an entire provider, full service provider really. Actually, my eye's still itchy, hang in there with me for a second, guys. They're a full service provider, more or less. They've got a few landing gear helicopters, or wheeled helicopters, non-skidded helicopters, and a couple of PJs too. I guess they're not private jets, they're EJs, but not executive, emergency. Either way, they are relatively popular out in this area, and they have some wheeled helicopters that I believe are like either Leonardo's or Augusta's, same thing, one's just the luxury version. I think they're 169s, which are relatively big. I think the 139 is actually bigger than 169. I don't know, I haven't looked too much into them. They're so significantly out of my price range of what I can imagine that I don't put much thought into it. But for like an American-made, like $6 million or less, landing gear wheeled helicopter, doesn't really exist that much, you know? It's like there's not a lot that competes in that market. Maybe because there's not a huge market segment for it. I mean, like, this could be used as a medical helicopter, but I think it's much cooler as a private helicopter, a luxury or a charter. Because, I mean, look, I'm cruising 145 knots, going uphill to cross mountains, and it's got stupid amounts of range to it. The 222 is a killer option, but nobody competes in this side anymore, really. I mean, it's Augusta Leonardo. That's really it as far as wheeled helicopters. I mean, like, you've got the 155 and bigger stuff with Airbus, but those are more like medium style, medium weight, medium use, whatever, helicopters. I still get to consider this one like a smaller use helicopter. Even though it's got Huey blades, and I think a Huey's kind of considered a medium, it's more of a light medium. It's not light, like a Bell 206 is a light. But I think the 222 Bravo size market isn't competed for enough. That's why I'm kind of happy to see the Hill helicopter, which, if you haven't looked into it, it's super cool. I wish there was a good model of that to fly, but of course the helicopter doesn't exist yet, so they can't really characterize flight characteristics and make something that would be accurate and truthful and honest model of it. But Hill's coming out with their helicopter. Hello, Mountain Breezes. And it's got options for skids or wheels. They both look phenomenal. I think the skids look really cool, but they do suck some of your speed and range away from you. But honestly, if you're buying a helicopter for $1 million, then okay, you could, a little bit less miles per gallon is not that big of a concern for you. They have two models coming out. One is the HC50 and one is the HX50. They are both identical. There is no difference between the models. The difference is the X is experimental because you come to the factory and you do 51% of the work over like a 2 or 3 week period as part of the purchasing buying experience, supervised by their techs. And the HC-50 is one that they complete themselves, and you get it as a certified aircraft. So if you're looking at doing something for commercial usage, whether it's passengers for tours or point A, point B operations, I guess with film too, even if you're filming something as an experimental and it's not like transporting or being a camera ship, if it was like a picture ship, maybe you could get away with experimental. But either way, for the most part, in a commercial sense, you'd prefer the HC-50. I forget how much more expensive it's going to be because it's a factory finished thing. But either way, super excited for them. Do wish it was a twin engine setup. But I also understand for the price range that they're looking to be in, since they're doing most, if not all, of the manufacturing themselves in-house to keep prices down and to keep a good control of their... It's cool. Little feeder valley. But to keep better control of their part supply and their rotables and stuff like that, it makes sense to keep stuff in-house. If you look at some of these companies that have almost gone bankrupt recently, or have gone bankrupt, or have been shut down and reopened, like looking at Instrom, looking at MD basically went into bankruptcy. I feel like there was somebody else. Schweitzer basically did. They were part of Sikorsky for a while. Whoa, what's going on? Sikorsky ended up selling them off to somebody and they kept it together. Anyways, regardless, what a lot of these places, even Robinson, they didn't go bankrupt, but they went under new management. But they got to a point where they realized that selling helicopters, while it's an important thing to do, so the production of new models and the innovation to lead into new models is a very important thing, supporting the people that already have your product is a huge thing too. And if you can't keep parts on the table, then people aren't going to fly your machines, which that means you're getting less advertising for your machines because less people are flying them. And you're also just not going to encourage somebody to purchase another one of your machines in the future when they're in the place to buy one of those machines. MD, for example, they did a huge audit of a lot of their parts and pieces and stuff, and they found that they were missing out thousands of parts that they could and should be keeping in stock, and they weren't, just because of old management and practices and whatever else. So their new management has changed that. They're working on bringing a whole bunch more stuff in stock, which I'm very happy to see. But there's a lot of stuff that they didn't produce and they had other people produce, and they just can't keep up with it. I mean, even working with Sean at the place we did, there was a lot of parts and stuff that we would need to get to rebuild something relatively simple like a fuel valve. And I'm trying to think of an example of what one of these parts be, but there were some like washers where it's just like a little copper or a brass washer, and because it has to be a certified part that it's traceable and has all of its forms and everything that comes with it. Little lake up here, nice. Because it needed to be that, and if this company, or like little O-rings or whatever that were very weirdly size-specific O-rings. I'll tell you what, this mountain wind is definitely noticeable today. Yeah, if those parts weren't available from that manufacturer and they weren't doing another run of them for another 6 months, then LOL, sorry, that valve is going to sit around for 6 months. So huge props to Hill for wanting to bring a lot of that manufacturing in to their own place. Robinson was doing that a lot too. MD starting to do that. Enstrom starting to do that. We are going way, 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 way too fucking fast. Yeah, it makes me happy to see that because it means that there's support, and I think it's a big shift in the way that companies are looking at treating their existing stuff and their existing products and customers. While it's something that's been done in the past, I don't think it's been done on quite that scale or that mindset that they have. So I'm glad to see that changing. Just like one thing they were saying on the MD 520s, which is the 520N, which is a no-tar setup, no tail rotor. So it's just a big tube that goes back, and there's a fan at the front of the tube that blows to the back, then a flapper valve, for lack of better terms, or a cylindrical valve, will rotate and allow the air to leave the tube, and that acts as your anti-torque. Same as like what your tail rotor would do, but it's much quieter, very smooth, and a lot of utility companies have found good use in that because you're not worried about your tail rotor catching a power line or a tree when you're doing close inspection, so you really only need to worry about what your main diameter is, and it's a lot safer too in a lot of situations. Either way, the company that had the tooling or the manufacturing processes for that particular section of the tail boom, where when it got damaged, there was nobody making these things. So apparently there's a handful of 520Ns that are just in limbo waiting for a company to make that again, or for MD to work on developing the tooling to start recreating that again. And of course, if they have to start doing it, their process has to get approved, or somebody else picks up doing it, that process has to get approved. So that's where the bureaucracy kind of gets in the way. Not a bad thing, not a good thing, it's just a thing that has to be dealt with. I like that there's regulation on a lot of these parts for certified aircraft, because I think it's a necessary evil to an extent to be good stewards of putting out truthful and honest and making yourself accountable for parts that you're putting on something. Because a lot of times, I mean, you get a fuel pump or a wheel bearing or something for a car, and the wheel bearing goes bad. And let's say it's an aftermarket one where you get it replaced at a shop. That aftermarket wheel bearing goes bad, and you cause a crash, and you hit somebody, and you kill somebody. There's a chance that you can get a vehicular manslaughter charge for the death of somebody because you got a bad part for your car because of whatever reason, you know, like they didn't produce a good part, so now you're facing jail time because of it. Now, if you're a pilot and something happens and you have a crash and it ends up killing somebody on the ground, you survive, the NTSB is going to investigate it, and they're going to say, oh wow, this bearing that was installed by XX company went bad. You did the best you could to save the airplane. Somebody did die in the process, but I don't think you're charged criminally for that because it's something that's traceable and held accountable. So you don't get a lot, there are still some, but you don't get a lot of aftermarket companies making questionable parts for aircraft. I'm glad to see it, but I also know that it creates huge hurdles for companies to get anything new made, whether it's something new and something that people asked for or something that people didn't ask for. But I mean, you look at the Robinson thing recently, where this horizontal stabilizer on the back of the Robinsons that are now coming out, in their mast bumping issues, I don't even want to say issue, but mast bumping susceptibility that they had was can be greatly reduced by having this particular vertical stabilizer on it. Because apparently, when you do what it's called by is a low G maneuver, so you do a low G maneuver where you push over so you kind of feel weightless, And when you pull back up, it throws this sideways moment into your aircraft, and that's a greater cause of the mast bumping, having that twist as you're recovering and reloading your rotor system by adding a positive G to it. By adding that horizontal stabilizer on the back, apparently that does a lot to minimize that recovery twist that happens. So that there, it's something that they had to get approved for years while it's a safety issue. And of course they were, I'm not going to say they were able to fast track it, but they were able to talk to people and say, hey, it's a big safety thing. And I think some strings were able to be pulled to help it increase its speed, but I don't know if they were able to really save a lot of time with it. But either way, there are some things that should be pushed through as long as all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. I don't think the bureaucracy should have to take that long, even though I feel like it is somewhat necessary in this situation. And I hate saying that. I really do. But at the same time, something that I've heard brought up also is you can't just hire somebody off the street that has a college degree in business management or whatever to come in. Also, we're almost at our next location, which is in whatever town, Montana, that I mentioned, Darby. If you do want to take a guess, we're getting close. We're like 5 minutes away. But yeah, so you have these people that get into whatever this position is in the FAA or whatever review committee or position that it is, and they don't get these approved that quickly because a lot of them may or may not fully understand what they're looking at. Because anybody who's going to be a good engineer is most likely going to be working for Bell, for Airbus, for Robinson, for Sikorsky, for Goose, for whoever. These good engineers are going to be working for them. They're not going to be taking a government pay scale job, having to sit through hundreds of thousands of pages of paperwork to approve these parts. The good engineers aren't going to do that. The good designers aren't going to do that. The people who can understand what they're looking at on those pages most fully and completely are not going to take that low of a pay scale job. Even though it could, and it's probably into the six figures, that's still not a lot if it's $110,000 a year compared to a similar leveled engineer at Bell or whatever that would have to understand all of the systems equally as well. You know, they're going to make $250,000 or more a year doing that, with the benefits that these places would put out, with all the cool, unique stock options and whatever else it is, you know, like none of them are going to be working for the FAA. It's like if you want, a friend of mine recently here during the strike and everything, or not strike, but the recovery from these film strikes where work is slow. He's a stunt guy. Great stunt guy, can drive the shit out of any car. One of the absolute best motorcycle riders in the world when it comes to stunt driving. Also a phenomenal fabricator and builder for cars and motorcycles. He's won a good bit of awards at different shows here and there with motorcycles that he's built from scratch. So he's a great welder. But he recently has had to get a job welding, which he ended up quitting here recently to go somewhere else. But he was working for a company that was building fuel tanks and stands for these generators that would be parked inside or just outside of like a hospital or something like that. So he goes there and they're like, oh man, we're terrified to ask what your rate would be. He named something moderate so that way they would at least bring him on, that to be discussed in a couple of weeks after, because he knew he would be that big of an asset to him. And everybody else there that had been hired was like fresh out of high school guys that they kind of taught to weld. There was always porosity in their welds. There was always leaks. And it was never to what it should be. And he fixed a lot of problems during his first couple of weeks there. But then that company was put on pause by the main company that was feeding them, because a lot of their stuff that had gone out before he was there was bad and was leaking and not as good as it should have been. So that's kind of a view of what the FAA and similar bureaucratic agencies and organizations is. It's cool, you've got this here and you're underpaying these people to come in and do a job by something that should be somebody highly skilled. You know, I mean, for something like that, I mean, it should, union welding jobs, you know, they're making $70, $80, $90, $100 an hour, depending on whatever they're doing. Tell you what, the wind is pushing me down here. There's a downdraft coming down this hill. I can feel it. We're very close to our next location. Are you going to land at Mountain Home Air Force Base? Not quite. But I'm going somewhere that's very recognizable just up here. Let's see. You can basically see it over the mountains here, but we'll see if you guys can recognize it before I get there. I'm purposefully hiding it behind here. I don't think you'll be able to recognize it from this far back, but I always enjoy a good crest and break and peak. Woo-wee. And I actually think it's over this crest, because I don't recognize that there. I start lowering my collective and pulling back on my cyclic, killing some of my airspeed. Boop, 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 boop. Okay, we got a driveway here. We've got some barns and stuff down here. Got a smaller little house there. We've got a bigger house up here. I've got my landing gear going down. We've got a lot of farm and ranch land. I've got a helipad behind the house over here. Of course, the house doesn't look anything like it does in real life. But I'm going to turn and face this back way because it's probably a bit more recognizable. Also, don't think of this as like something where it's like a very popular helicopter thing. There just happened to be a helicopter. Welcome, everybody in this flight. To the Yellowstone Ranch. That's right, if you remember episode 1, they had or season 1, they had a helicopter. So, here we are. I figured I'd land at the Yellowstone Ranch because it was kind of in the way anyways, the direction we were going. Now what I am noticing is that my fuel looks lowish. I'm not sure how accurate the fuel burn is here. So what I'm going to do is go north a bit, I think. Yeah, we're going to head north up to Ravalli County Airport, and then we're going to start heading west over the mountains. But, welcome to Yellowstone Ranch. This is what old family money buys you. So back up on the collective, get our movements canceled out, take off. Let's spin around and wave at our favorite murderers of anybody who gets in their way. Hello, guys. Thank you for letting us stop in. Gear up. We're gonna go, not this one, it's like up around the corner up here. But yeah, Yellowstone Ranch. That's where we be going and shit, you know? Mm-hmm. We're gonna stay low and kind of buzz the river on the way up, because why not, you know? We're here for a good time and a long time. That's what I have on my Bumble account, but it hasn't worked. Right next to that other bad idea that Berlin gave me the other day. Thank you, Berlin. What was it? It was I Crave the Void. Another winner. Cool area out here, though. I wonder how much rain or precipitation it would take to turn this valley into some sort of biblical flood. Like, how much of a worry is it for people up, like, right there versus people up on that hill there? Because it looks like there's an obvious floodplain, right? Like, of course, there probably gets heavy, it maybe makes it to the road. Like, 100-year flood makes it to the bottom up here somewhere. But, like, once you hit that hill, I think you're probably pretty good. I think that's so much water at that point where it's not an issue. Yeah, dude, actually, I hear that they're building a Dollar General next to Yellowstone. So if they want to build one on the ranch there itself, that probably gives them appropriate spacing to you know, not have too many Dollar Generals in the same spot or in the same area. I think their general rule is, like, as long as it doesn't touch the parking lot of another Dollar General, then you should be alright. At least that's what I've heard from corporate. Didn't Dollar General do an undercover boss at one point? Jamie, look that up. I'm pretty sure Dollar General did an undercover boss at one point. I'm baffled by the fact that it wasn't worse than what it was. There we go, Ravalli County. Ravioli County, this is Helicopter 42069. We are 8 miles to your south, fast approaching. A Bell 222 Bravo Airwolf. Please respect the name. Also, going back to different companies and helicopters and brands and stuff. I think MD should bring the NOTAR back. I did listen to a podcast with their new CEO on the podcast, and he did mention that everybody liked NOTAR, but there was no definitive plan to bring it back. But I think Bell themselves is working on a no-tail rotor type design. Similar idea, but a different execution. I'm pretty sure they're working on something. So I looked at their website the other day, and it's like in their concept section or something like that. I'm getting a little bit laggy. We're gonna go a wee bit of altitude, and by a wee bit I mean a hell of a lot of altitude, to save myself in case something freezes up. Don't do this to me, babe. We're in a beautiful area. We can't crash here. Let's look at the gauges and see if it evens out on us. Yeah, not really. Oh well. If we die, we die. God, what are you doing up there, rotors? Your shadow or something is killing my vibe here. Holy crap. I was about to make a quick, little short final call here, but it reminded me of this video that I saw on Instagram today, and it was a girl in the front seat flying a Cub, and somebody was in the back seat flying, or riding, and you can tell she's starting to make a bit of a left turn, but you don't know where she is in the turn itself, because the video will cut here and there to speed things up or whatever, I guess to make an Instagram reel, or to hide something. And it's like, hey, this is Piper 1234. We're gonna go ahead and turn on the runway 36 to take off. And this snidey bitch gets on the radio, and she's like, well, you better hurry up, I'm on short final. And this is after the video had already cut once or twice, okay? So you can't really tell where she was at when she did. And she was turning when she was like, well, I'm on short final. Well, obviously you're turning short final. So you were on base. So this person pulled out when you weren't even lined up for the runway. And I know. Shut up. Anyway, she's like, you better hurry up, I'm on short final. And then she's like, I can't believe this guy. And they get closer, and the video cuts a couple more little times here and there as she's complaining about it. And then they're at the point where they're close enough, and she's like, guy's like, okay, I'm taking off or whatever. And she's like, okay, well, I'm having to, this is airplane 1234, having to peel off to avoid the airplane on the runway. Super, super snarky. And she's saying it over the air. And, I commented, I was like, man, I would have sat on the runway longer just to, to spite her attitude, you know? And, she gets on the comments to white knight herself, and she's like, well, actually, airplanes on the ground are supposed to give way to airplanes or to traffic that's on final. And I was like, in the video, you didn't say the word final until he already said he was going to be pulling onto the runway. And you as a pilot should know that a lot of times when somebody's turning, they're like kind of at an angle to where you can't really see it because the wings are completely like perpendicular to you, and at a flat angle to where you can't see where people are, you know. Okay, we're here. We're gonna fuel up by clicking the little button a couple times. See, I fill all the way up, but it only puts me at 6 on each side, so I don't know what the fuel load actually does in this thing. But now let's back up a little bit. But anyway, she gets on there to like white knight herself to like, well, actually, it was supposed to be this. And I get back on there. And, what you doing, buddy? Are you in a bus? I bet you're in a bus or something that's going to spawn in as I'm like inside of you. But she starts standing up for herself. And I'm like, look, okay, you can post the entire unedited video so I can make an appropriate decision on like what your attitude, if it's justified or not, because I don't know if you didn't call base. I don't know if you didn't call final until before or after, but as far as your video's edited, I didn't hear the word final until after he already said that he was going to be on the runway. And so yeah, that was something that I thought was funny-ish today. Because it's like, shut up. Like, I'm not going to tell you this yes, no, up, down, or make a decision and side with you. I don't give a shit if you have 19 or 20,000 Instagram followers because you're a girl that flies an airplane who's mildly attractive. If you're going to be a bitch, you're going to be a bitch. And if you want to not post your entire conversation, that's your choice, but just know that I'm going to believe you're hiding something, so if you really want to prove it to one person, then you can do that to prove it to one person. That's on you. But it was just funny because, like, look, you're posting an obviously edited video, and you're trying to make yourself seem like a good person. This person seemed bad, but you were just an asshole. So, don't come at me. I'm a random internet person who's not going to bow down to your bullshit, you know? Anyways, can you tell that irked me a little bit today? And not that I'm getting upset from it, I just think it's funny that somebody's like, oh, well, you know, I'm perfect. Like, if you're perfect, you'd post it unedited. If you're perfect, I wouldn't have to guess or be on somebody's side. But either way, even if you were completely in the right and he was completely in the wrong, the radio's no place for your attitude. And Sean, when I say radio, I mean a communication device that airplanes use to talk to each other in the ground. I definitely don't mean anything related to a radio. Yeah, it's like even if you were completely right and they were completely wrong, it could have been a simple, like, okay, cool, this is airplane 1234 turning final. This is whoever, I'm pulling onto the ramp, and it can be like, hey, I'm going to go around because I don't think you're going to make it in time. Just please listen out or look out in the future. No reason to throw an attitude into it. And then to post it online like you're some sort of hero. No, sorry. I'm not going to play it. I hope she remembers my name, and I hope she's a CFI somewhere. I want to go to school at one day. Look how aggressive those little valleys are right there. Which I could cut that way. But I'd rather kind of work back down towards my flight path. So we're going to kind of go over this hill here and work our way towards our former flight path. It was even funnier because, like, it was a helicopter page that posted this airplane video, and it was like medical pilots whenever something doesn't go exactly their way. And then she comes onto that freaking that comment section of people who are commenting on a meme laughing about a meme and she starts defending herself, which is even funnier. Like, the only times I defend myself that hard is when I'm doing something questionable. If I'm completely in the right and somebody does something like that, I don't care. Like, your opinion means nothing, but the fact that she's in there going at people's throat is even funnier. It's like, if anything, just be happy that you made a meme and maybe you can get 2 followers off of it. Any press is better than bad. Or bad press is better than no press? Or all press is good press. That's it. Well, I guess all those kind of make sense too. Like, yeah, just, live your life, be happy, don't be an asshole to people. It's that simple. Like, I know at the end of the day, flying is just flying. Just kind of like shooting is shooting, You have your grip, you have your trigger pull, you have your sight picture, and you have your recoil management. And any sort of advanced shooting is just doing those things, but in an advanced manner, like, oh man, he's good at running and shooting and being accurate. Well, running is not a shooting skill. Running is running. Being able to do a shooting skill while running, that's the tough part. But it's all just shooting skill at the end of the day. So equating that to this, it's like, I know flying is flying, and mountain flying is just flying in the mountains. But I very much look forward to getting out into the mountains one day for the purpose of training and learning, because I know a lot of the skills are going to be more difficult to execute while you're at 6,000 feet or 10,000 feet. And dealing with mountain winds and drafts, whether up or down, and all the unpredictability that comes with weather and you have to deal with in the mountains. So I look forward to that, just because it's going to be that much different than really anything else that you can do. I heard it's like relatively easy once you get used to it, because it's kind of the same thing. The big thing you have to look out for is like loss of tail rotor effectiveness. I think I've seen more accidents of that when you're in the mountains, just because of the winds coming at you at different directions, and you may not be prepared for that and where your tail rotor is. There's my line, so we're going to start heading this way. Look at that. Montana, what even are you? Let's pour some juice back into this, because we are squeezing, boys. Yeah, so I'm curious and excited to get out somewhere like this one day to fly. Doing rescue ops would be extremely cool out here, but I also know that's an extremely high-level thing to get into, and you have to be extremely talented, which I don't doubt that I am. I just know there's a lot more practice to be at the point to where that's a viable thing. I believe the mentality's there. I've got the processing power to make that work and to make the decisions and to think quick enough, I believe. But there's definitely real stick time and real experience that needs to happen getting to a point like this. But even before that, it would be nice to get out and learn mountain flying. I talked to Fred North, the movie pilot, one day about the fact that I'm getting into flying. And he told me, he's like, hey, one thing you need to do is anytime that you go on vacation somewhere and you are somewhere new, you have your license, either rent a helicopter and go fly, or talk to the school and say, hey, I'm a pilot with 200-300 hours, or even if you're employed somewhere, like, hey, I'm a pilot with 1,500 hours. But I primarily fly in Atlanta, where the ground and air and everything's relatively simple. It's like, I'd love to get some practice here in the mountains. Do you mind taking me up to elevation and letting me get some reps in and giving me pointers on things I should look out for. And that was one of the coolest tips that I've gotten from anybody. Most people, it's like, beware, your pedals are going to be a bit more sensitive than you expect, so make sure your rudder turns are very slow and as effortless as you can imagine to make them, or like work on your radio calls or whatever, like very physically quantitative skills to work on. Work on your pedals, work on your radio, work on your cyclic movement, so that way it's slow and not putting yourself in a PIO situation. But to practice in a lot of different places, that will help teach you the extremes of the handling capabilities or the effective envelopes of what the aircraft's capable of. That's a cool tip. That's a really cool tip. I could clear this hill right here, but I'd rather kind of follow the valley to get the view over the little mountain lakes and everything. It's like in Georgia, there's nowhere that I'm going to get 8,000 feet. And do I have a thermometer here? Or an OAT? Anybody see the outside air temperature tell me? Anyways, I bet it's chilly. Either way. 24 volts, that's my timer. There's that. I don't see my OAT. Anyways, if I had a thermometer easily visible, I would tell you. Like anyway, there's not many places in Georgia. Well, actually, there's nowhere in Georgia that I'm going to get altitude this high and deal with situations that something like the Rocky Mountains can put me in. Also, we are 45 minutes from our next stop. What is our next stop, you ask? I don't know. Our next stop is a little bitty airport on the river that I thought just looked cool. And then from there it should be relatively quick up to Moscow. Which maybe if we have the time, I'll consider doing the trip up to that cool place north of Moscow. Sean, are you listening? Have you figured out what the cool military thing is about 35 minutes north of Moscow by aircraft? Look, I'll even say it's close to Spokane, okay? That gives you something. It's northeast of Spokane. Very neat military thing with a very cool fact at a pretty unique place, which is very rare on United States territories, which is why this unique military place happens to be where it's at. And you've got your father there. I know y'all both have the mind where you know all these cool things. Or the sound can be off and you're not listening. And it's not a Dollar General on a military base, despite what you may believe. Definitely getting some winds out here. It's a bit chilly, but I'm going to leave the window open for you because there's a bit more sound coming through when we leave that open. Okay, so if you look at Spokane, directly to the east of Spokane is Harrison Slough, which is a lake. North of Harrison Slough, there's a much bigger lake, Lake Pend O'Reilly, or something, maybe about 15 to 20 miles northeast of Spokane. That lake there is home, if you look on the south side of the lake, south-ish side, I believe. Anyways, that lake is home to the only inland naval base in the United States. And I think possibly in the world, because what would you need an inland naval base for? Well, that lake happens to be 1,000 feet deep, which is unreal in its own. But it's a place where I believe during World War II, which y'all can look into this, which I'm sure you probably will, but America did submarine training and exercises in that lake without having to be worried about being spotted or tracked or spied on being in the open ocean, where that way they could practice maneuvers and whatever else they need to, navigation, mines, whatever else, and they practice it in that lake. So yeah, there's your fun fact. Big Lake, Inland Naval Base. I mean, obviously only for training, but I mean, and that's literally a fact I just learned today. I have not fact-checked it, but it makes sense. It's like I also know there's like the naval bases at the Great Lakes, but I believe you can also transit those rivers and stuff from there to get to the oceans if needed, and it's also a border, but this is completely inland, landlocked, no way out. So hearing a little sound. I don't know what that sound is. Interesting. Who knows? Let's see how much quieter it gets. You ready? It's quieter, but it's not significantly louder. See, I'm hoping Alaska's more similar feeling of that, even though the trees kind of annoy me how it's just white and black dots down there. At least there is some sort of geography to it. When you're just getting in the... where there's no trees and you're at an altitude where the trees stop, it is just sheet ice, and that is not fun. Like I said, I want this to be relatively exciting for anybody watching. Is it going to be boring to an extent? Damn right. Flying around the world in a helicopter. It's going to be boring. But we get to do this cool thing of flying near the ground and getting to see more than those airline fellas. And it's giving me something to do. So I'll gladly take it. Also, you're in Georgia without looking it up. What is the deepest lake in Georgia? And do you know how deep it is? Which you could obviously just look it up, because there's no way for me to stop you. Also, did you tell your parents that I was concerned about them when the tornado came through a month ago or whatever? And that I messaged you to make sure that your parents were messaged to make sure that they were taking cover. I want them to know that I care, okay? Berlin is ignoring and watching TikToks like a good Chinese spy. No, not Lake Lanier. It is Carter's Lake up in North Georgia. It's like 400-ish. I don't think it's on the Chattahoochee. Is it? I don't know. It's like... Also, welcome back. It's like 490 feet deep or so, near-ish to the dam. Obviously, it's in the mountains, and it's taking advantage of mountain valleys to get a lot of its depth. I don't remember the river that it's on, though. It could be the Chattahoochee, because it's kind of winds through that area. But Carter's Lake, 500 feet-ish. West near the border between Alabama. Nope, that's definitely not it, then. You're thinking of something different. That might be the biggest lake. I think that's the biggest lake you're thinking of. I forget the name. But it's, I think like the top 3 biggest lakes in Georgia are all ones that are border lakes where it touches like Alabama or South Carolina. Lanier, I think, is number 4 as far as size. Little airport down there. Boy, I bet that'd be a pain for small planes to deal with. Like, you are not taking off going to the south over there. I'm sorry. Unless you're going up and immediately taking a right at the end of the runway. You have got to have some power if you're going to be climbing that thing. Holy crap. That's one of those, like, 2-direction only airports. Yeah, the runways can be either way, but you're only going to be using it in that one way. Semi-man-made. Actually, all lakes in Georgia, with the exception of beaver ponds, are man-made. There are no natural bodies of water in Georgia except for something like beaver ponds or something like that. Unlike places here where you'll have seasonal lakes and different pits of mountains, or up in Minnesota where there's just a whole bunch of lakes because of the nature or whatever. Yeah, every lake in Georgia is man-made. I actually won a Georgia State Social Studies fair in 7th grade, and the title was "How Have Floods Changed Georgia's Geography?" And most people thought that, or I think the reason why I did so good at the State Social Studies fair was because most people were like, okay, cool, floods, knock down some trees, knock a few houses, and maybe erode a little bit. But then I dropped that bombshell of every lake in Georgia is technically a man-made flood. Whoopah! Then dropped some information on them about how that affected a whole bunch of stuff. And got me a little trophy or a ribbon or something for that. Although I'm super bummed, I went to state my 8th grade year, and I didn't win. And I think it was because my project was too good. I had it down to a science. I won 6th and 7th grades. But I didn't win 8th grade, and my project was significantly better. The paper was significantly better written. It was just better all around. Like, the model was fantastic. I mean, hundreds of dollars worth of clear, pour, like acrylic epoxy to make water. It was how is the Southeast, or how have hurricanes affected the geography of the Southeast United States. There's a creek near me called Chattahoochee Creek. I assume that's the... I can't fucking read while I'm flying what's going on. There's a creek near me called Chattahoochee Creek. I assume the name of it has cats. That was a good-looking volcano. Was it a good-looking volcano? Hell no, I didn't do no volcanoes. Nah, 6th grade year, it was... how has the invention of the Doppler radar affected storm chasing and prediction? The next year was how have floods changed Georgia's geography, and 3rd year was how have hurricanes affected the geography of the southeastern United States. Look at this rock up here. I am a... Guys, look, a cool rock. Everybody, pay attention. There's a cool rock up here. I'm literally slowing down for this rock. Yeah, shut up. I'm literally not going to want to land. We're just looking at a rock. Very cool. It's got a shape to it too. Whoo, hot damn. That's a mighty fine rock. But anyways, my model, my 8th grade year was fantastic. I mean, I did it a bit my 7th grade year of like hand carving foam. But I hand carved some styrofoam into this beach scene with a whole bunch of different erosion styles put into the beach. I built a house out of balsa wood walls, fences, furnishings, all that, and showed like the way that a lot of houses along the beach get affected by storm surge and wind damage and stuff like that. I had all these little golf tees with numbers written on them, put in these different places in the model to label stuff. And I had a little like flip book sort of label things, that way you could see what each of the numbers referenced, and there was like page references on that to like different places in the report. The report only had to be like 3 pages or something like that. Mine was like 12 or 15 pages, completely cited, like unique perspectives on stuff. I nailed it. And apparently during that 8th grade year at the school level, I was going to be disqualified because the judges didn't think that I did it. They thought that my parents had done it. And of course my teacher was there for the discussion of who to push through or whatever. And they said that. And they were like, the teacher was like, actually, no, that's just who he is and what he's capable of doing. And also his parents are nowhere near that artistic, so it's definitely not them. But yeah, the teacher had to stand up for me at the school level. Regionals I made it through, but I heard stuff about the state level afterwards that I had not been disqualified, but overlooked because it was out of the class of what they expected social studies fairs to be, where I was competing above what the high school seniors were doing for the people that had advanced that far as high school seniors. So no, his parents didn't do it. He's just autistic. Just like Weather. I think Weather's cool to sue me. Look at this little lake down here. Very cool. Let's demand a lot from our engine. Get our RPM light on. Over torque light. Ooh, we are such bad boys. I'm not going to tell my mechanic. And if they ask, I'm going to tell them I did it on purpose, because I literally did. Imagine being, like, camping, like, here. How the hell do you get here? Like, what do you do is like, okay, cool, I want to go camp by these lakes here, and I think we're Idaho now. Like, what do you put on your GPS other than the actual coordinates to get here? Like, this is effectively the middle of nowhere. But it's also very much somewhere. What are you yapping about? You would have really enjoyed my college geology class. I probably would have. I did a year of college, which I still am, but at the time I was a very big car enthusiast. Admittedly now, I was definitely very high on the Dunning-Kruger curve of what my knowledge was. But I even remember back in the day I had there was a forum back before Facebook was really like a forum for all the car guys or whatever. But I was on a forum, kind of like ARFCon, for you gun fella. And I remember posting a thread that was something like, I just want to drive. Because I love driving. I love competitively driving, whether it was doing drifting, motorcycle racing, autocrossing, time attack, drag racing, whatever I've done in the past. I've always thoroughly enjoyed doing it, and I just really love driving. That's why I don't mind my commutes more, because even if it's just commuting, I enjoy driving. I'm just autistic. But, I did about a year of college. And I quit because it was like, man, I just want to work around cars. And nothing that I could see myself doing or learning or figuring out with going to a traditional type college was really going to benefit me in any way that I felt benefited. The cool thing is, places like MIT or wherever, they have a few years after the course has been taught, you can actually take many of their courses for free. So any of the lectures that teachers have done, any of their PowerPoints, books, worksheets, whatever, many of them are loaded online, and it's something that you can just hop on and take. You don't get credit for it, but the knowledge is out there. The knowledge is free. You can't stop the signal. And a lot of cars down there. What's up, fellas? But a lot of these courses are out there, and now even beyond MIT, there's just a lot of college courses and whatever else. It's just free out there anyways. There's a lot of information. You can become a YouTube mechanic. You can learn so much stuff from just watching YouTube videos. Is it alright? Maybe. Mayhaps. What? You dropped out? No. Was it because you wanted to drive, or was it because you wanted to go into the Marines? But yeah, it's like traditional college isn't for everybody. And it was something that I was doing and I was pursuing. I was accepted to a handful of colleges. My grades weren't the best in high school, but mostly because I didn't apply myself, because when you don't have the interest in certain topics or subjects, you tend not to put yourself into learning it too much. For example, I still to this day thoroughly believe that the only practical purpose to be or to have a literature teacher is to teach future literature teachers. Language, I understand completely. It's nice to be able to learn to speak, to converse, to type, to talk, to write. There's a lot of things that can be benefited from that. But I don't give a damn about doing a literary analysis on a book. You know, there's nothing about that that's in any way, shape, or form appealing to me. I do not want to read a book and tell you what I think, you know. The crayons just kept calling my name, and in junior year I could not hold back any longer. And now look at you, full of wax. But yeah, it's like the only reason for literature teachers is for that. And like, I don't care about literary analysis. I don't want to read all these older books, all of these older poems, all these older stories, and even newer ones. Whatever the case was, I don't care, and me putting the effort into that was just something that was taking effort away from me in other places. And that just never set right with me. So I didn't do the best in my literature classes or my language class. Or I did okay in language, because I mean it's just writing and stuff, but I think it's a weird way that they go about it. I actually only failed one class in high school. That was one semester of AP US History. And after I failed the first semester, I said, damn, I better get my stuff together. I made like a 98 second semester. Because you could go early in the mornings and do like test reviews, because we had like quizzes every Fridays and whatever. And when it was advanced placement US History, it was, you had to put in the effort because it was advanced placement. And I could have passed first semester. I just didn't, because I didn't apply myself. But at the same time, the way my head works is I learned all these things. I took in the lessons from them because I take them as learning experiences. It's nice to know the past. Sure, I could tell you General Patton did this, or there was this battle here and this battle here. There's a lot of unique stuff that is to be learned. But at the same time, the details on things like that, I would let escape me because I didn't see the practical benefit to storing that information. And it really comes down to that. I've almost always run an algorithm in my head of the amount of time that I'm putting into something, the amount of effort that I'm putting into something, if there's other ways to do what I'm doing. That's why I've always been a big proponent of, whenever I'm in a supervisory position, don't bring me problems, bring solutions. Because anytime that I would have a problem with something, I'm already working on a way to figure it out by the time I'm bringing it up with whoever's above me. And I prefer to get that same treatment back from whoever else. So doing these things, it's like, cool, I'm putting all this time and this effort and whatever into this, but there's so many other things I can be working on or figuring out or solving, and it just memorizing dates and different laws and different things that were influences to different laws that I didn't care about. I didn't see the necessity of learning, I'm not going to be a lawyer one day. So I don't really need to be completely up to date on every single lawsuit that's passed through the Supreme Court that has a resulting decision that affects something that was written 200 years ago or 300 years ago or 50 years ago. I know what it is now. I know what I don't believe in personally. And I know what I do and I don't do personally, most importantly. Firearm laws one, it's like, okay, cool, they tell you to do all these things, do you listen to them all? Well, probably not, hopefully not. I hope everybody's smarter than that. Nobody can tell you what to do with your own life as long as you're not affecting somebody else's life. But yeah, I didn't see the necessity of learning and listening to so much that was just not what I cared about. And then I failed and I realized I'd have to retake a semester of history in AP or non-AP versions, which I did my senior year. I just took one semester of U.S. history or something. School separates the information into such different areas that it eliminates the most useful thing that you can learn, cross-application. True. 100% true. And luckily, the history teacher I had was great. Even though I failed first semester, he's still probably my favorite teacher that I've had. Martin Magda, shout out to you. Great job. But, like you said, it gets rid of a lot of the logical reasoning and everything that crosses over in any sort of way that makes it applicable to you. And even if it is presented in a way to where it could, we're only 9 minutes from our airport, and we're still fly on fuel, so we're gonna let it be. So even with that, even if it was presented in a way to where it was, we'll just say, relevant information was consecutively discussed, instead of it being a timeline of 1492 until 2007 when I was in the class. It was mostly a point A to point B timeline lessons, although he was a very good teacher. But a lot of the stuff, that even if it was put in order of importance, I don't feel like it would have been presented in a way to encourage the free thought of everybody else in the class. A big reason that is testing it is standardized in a way that is more beneficial for the students and for the teachers and for the numbers, for schools, for grants or whatever. It's an information retention system rather than a free thinking system. It's you're told to do this system instead of here's what you're allowed to do everything except for this one thing. So build your own path and set your own goals. So that's the reason why when I have kids one day, I'd prefer to homeschool, because I want to nurture that sort of mental growth to where I can encourage them to do their own thinking. weird little area here. I wonder if that's just logging or if it's little off-road trails or something. It looks logging. It looks like there's trees down and piles of logs and stuff. And we're all the way back down at 3,500 feet. Making our way downtown, moving fast. Pace is fast and homebound. Copyright. If I get copyright strike for that entire 7 seconds of me. I don't know if I said anything on stream before, but on one of these streams, I got a copyright strike from a band. Or a music producer group, something. And it gave me a timestamp of like, hey, it happened at like 32 minutes into your stream or whatever. And I was like, I don't think I remember using any music. But I went and it was like the title music for whatever menu in this game, or it might have been 2020. I don't remember. But I fought the copyright claim. I was like, hey, this isn't a copyright strike. Or you're mistaken. This is the background music and song from the menu system of this flight simulator. This music is owned by Microsoft, that produced specifically for this game, and that all sounds related to this game have been cleared and free to use by anybody that's posting any sort of gameplay for entertainment purposes. So no, it's not copyright struck. Fun fact, what you learn in high school is overly simplified, and when you study history in college, they really open things up to interpretation from primary sources. Do they do that about World War II? Asking for no in particular reason. Or do they control primary sources for World War II? Do they teach the winner's history about World War II? I mean, I'm Team USA. But I mean, being a country who's won and or not mention the fact that we didn't really win Vietnam, Korean type things, but just ignoring those because they don't really count. Korea was a conflict. In Vietnam, we just kind of like shoved under a rug. But being that, it's like we always put out our side. I mean, hell, even if you look back to Saddam Hussein in mid-2000s when we went back, and the weapons of mass destruction, like, yes, Saddam was a dictator who did use biological weapons and a lot of force against his own people, and he did need to go. But the way that we went about it with the WMD thing was like, okay, cool, we kind of fibbed a little bit to put ourselves in there. Like, at the time it might have been more frowned upon. Depends on the professor. Depends on the state. If it's a state-owned Georgia place, you can't question anything about World War II. Fun fact. It's like Georgia State University and stuff. Nope, can't question it. You're not allowed to. Actually, against the law, you can be arrested. So, there's a fun fact for you. But what was I saying? Something war. Oh, yeah. Like, even though it would have been frowned upon more back then to say, like, okay, cool, well, there's these Iraqi rebels that want to go against their current leader, so we're going to assist these rebels in the overthrowing of their government by sending our full military force behind it and showing them what the good old red, white, and blue can do. It probably would have been a bad look if we did that. But I think now, knowing what we do know, it probably would have been a much better look in the long run to say, like, hey, there's this bad dude in here. Most people can agree with it. He does have loyalists, though. But instead of just, like, CIA, black funds funding a war over here with untrained rebels, we're just going, like, it's a much better look, in my opinion, to be truthful about some things. There are some things that do need to stay in the shadows, obviously. But I think definitely long run for that. Learn about the eugenics program. Are you talking about blue eyes and blonde hair? Because I don't think that was the USA. Yeah, I mean, there's so much shit that we did. Like, you just look at, like, half the stuff that the CIA has done. That people are just like, oh no, that's not a real thing. It's like, there's a whole warehouse full of shit that they did to us. And they've admitted to, like, 30 years later. That's just all questionable crap. Like, oh, the CIA would never set up mirrors in a whorehouse and bring a whole bunch of people in there and then drug them on LSD and use the prostitution there to see how it affects them in different ways with the drugs and what the reaction. The CIA would never do that. Oh, wait a second, the CIA did that. Oh no, they would never help run stuff through a college or build a program to do testing on people and see what they could do to affect their brains, and those people are definitely not going to turn into mass murdering cultists in the future. Oh man, Charles Manson exists. Holy crap, it did happen. We're getting close to a stop down here. And when I say stop, I mean I am going to gear up 140 knots the freaking runway as we go. They are not going to know what hit them. A little runway that could. This is helicopter 42069. We are carving the canyon a couple miles to your east. We are going to cut near some towers, come in there, show you who's boss, and leave you up wet. Little canyon airport. What is this? Will these be power lines? No, that's a tower. A little stout tower. Man, this thing would have an approach from this angle. Look at that. I wonder if they would do like a river approach. I'm actually going to look at the published approaches for this thing later. Yeah, I wonder if they would do a river approach or if they want people to do a steep approach in this way. Or if it's only approaches from the west. No, you could probably turn a short final here with a lot of small planes. I know for sure that road is not that busy. Runway 27 is our bitch. Let's go. Radar altimeter has given up. And now we're back to getting some altitude out of it. Imagine being on the runway watching a gear up Bell 222B like blast the runway like that. Heading to bed, dude. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks to your parents. Shout out to Belinda, even though she was on TikTok being a spy. We can let it fly for now. But peace out. Good talking to you as always. And we're gonna keep on kicking our way up to Moscow. See ya. This would be a cool place to live down here. Again, I'm curious what the flood situation's like. Obviously, they're not going to be getting a Hurricane Helene coming through over here, but big rain's always a thing in a lot of places. And you have a lot of and you got a big fucking dam right there too. So, boy, if there was ever a problem with that, everybody that way would be having a bad day. Upriver, though, probably not that big of a deal, you know? I'll say, we're going to fight this hill and stay on line, but I was actually kind of to the right of the line because I was looking over there. We'll get back to our flight director and 25 minutes or so, we should be over in Moscow. It should be more like 20 minutes. We're picking up some speed here once we get up to altitude. That's with our current speed. Which actually, even though we had a later start tonight, I'm glad I picked the 222 because we made up some time and we'll still be landing midnight-ish, which is kind of what I've been pushing for the past few streams. Not so much that I have a bedtime right now, since film is effectively shut down. But, you know, it's nice to be allowing myself some time to relax, watch a video or two on YouTube. Have a little midnight snack. I usually do some yogurt and fruit and granola for my evenings. Gives me a good kick of protein, and sorry about that, but also keeps me pretty. There's some power lines there. Let's do up and over, even though the lines don't exist here in the game. I'm curious how they got the... Ooh, they put the wrong pole model there. Wow. Idiots. But I'm curious how they modeled that. They had somebody go in and confirm where power lines were and weren't for the most part. For at least the cross countries. Also, look how high we are here. We went up a good rip just to kind of like get on this upper plateau area. Which apparently I was talking to a fella on Instagram the other night. Like a Russian mob guy, or the Russian mob guy, something like that. He is a lineman, I believe, that does power line work from under an MD-500, where they drop them off on power lines and haul him up there on a long line and drop him off. He does things and comes back. Anyway, he's posted some cool helicopter videos, so I follow him and seems like a pretty cool dude. Anyway, he lives up here in the Lewiston area. And he was like, dude, you should move up here. It's so good. And I was like, you know, I'm kind of used to Georgia. 1,000,000 degrees worth of heat. I don't really care for super cold and super snow. He's like, dude, Lewiston's not that bad. I was like, I got friends in Moscow that say it's relatively miserable sometimes. But he said Lewiston's like 2,500 foot-ish, or 2,500 foot lower elevation than Moscow. And I'm assuming it's this river valley right here, because I believe it's the same river that feeds out to Lewiston somewhere down over there, be my best guess. And so Lewiston would be on the lower bit, because there's a lower standard plateau at like 500 foot above sea level. And then there's one of these which brings it up to 2,000 foot or whatever, and that's where Moscow sits, a good 30-45 minute drive north, but just a few minute flight. So that's something that would be... I've always liked Idaho. I've never not said no to moving out here, but I would have to be gainfully employed somewhere to where it would be worth it. Because that would be a complete and total uproot of my life, obviously. Completely across the country, no family, no nothing. I'd be looking for all new friends, all new church, all new career. I can't really cross my career over here yet, but I'm hoping that if I get into piloting, that is something that I can take to different places. Idaho, it's so diverse. I mean, we had those big mountains that we went through just west of the Yellowstone Ranch, and I believe the Idaho state line's halfway through those mountains. So they've got those. Looks like we have some weather up ahead of us, potentially. Yeah, it's a whole different area. It's such a diverse... I mean, you don't have beaches, you don't have ocean. We've got amazing rivers and valleys and little canyons. A whole different world than what I'm used to, which I'm not going to say a good or a bad thing, but culture shock would be a term, even though it is still the same country. That's one thing about America too. If you don't live here, it's kind of hard for you to understand, but America's a big place. We're flying 4 hours a day. We're not even doing coast to coast. We're doing a coastal state to the other corner of the country. But it's going to be a 9-day flying series with 4-hour flights each, going 150 miles an hour over the ground. So, I mean, that's, we'll say 3 hours on average of 9 days. I mean, that's 27 hours to fly across the country. We'll say 28 in helicopter, going triple the speed limit of a lot of places, and being able to cut in a straight line, so not having to follow roads. And it's that big. If you're driving it, if you're averaging 140 miles an hour, you can do New York to LA in like 24 to 28 hours. That's what like the current record stands for the Cannonball Run. But it's not a small place. There's been a lot of uninformed tourists that have come to the U.S. From somewhere like Europe. K. There's a K on the ground. I hope they know somebody saw that and acknowledged it. Good for them. If you're from K City, then shout out to you. Will it say it here? No. Yeah, so they've flown into like New York. And they've said, okay, cool, they're going to get a rental car and they have a hotel at the Grand Canyon for the night. Sorry, babe, it does not work like that. You've got at least a 2-day drive ahead of you if you are going non-stop. If you are getting in the car and driving non-stop, getting a hotel, sleeping, waking up and getting back in the car and driving non-stop, you might make it there that next night. Like, I've honestly stopped paying attention to anything that anybody from Europe says when they talk about commute lengths or long drives or whatever. Like, as soon as somebody in the UK starts talking about, like, oh man, it's I've got such a commute to get to work or whatever, however they speak. Like, sorry, no, you don't. You're actually just, driving to the town next to you, which happens to be 7 minutes away, and you're complaining. I have to drive 7 minutes to get out of my neighborhood. And the only place to work within that 7 minutes is a gas station. So, sorry guys, Brit Bongs don't want to hear it. Look at this, you don't have anything like this. Dude, crop dusting this area would be wild. I've seen some videos of Idaho crop dusting, which we'll come down here and do some ground skirting. But I've seen some videos of like airplanes dusting. I don't know if it's particularly this area, but this geography in Idaho. Man, that'd be such a cool, basically like fighter jetting your way through like rolling hills. If I was going to fly fixed wing, this would be the sort of crop dusting experience that I would want to have. The rolling hills of central to western Idaho. What a cool area. And the wild thing is, it's cut by these beautiful valleys, which I'm sure have springs at the head up there. with good creeks and water and rivers and babbling brooks moving through. I'm a big fan of them babbling brooks, let me tell you. And also, if you happen to live in Moscow, Idaho, we are 8 minutes from you. Should tag them in the Discord. Tater Hater, I'm about to tag you. Maybe you're not already in here. About to roll up. Tag Nathan and Noah too. You know, trying to be a homie, you know. Let you guys see your house digitally from the air. It's so exciting. And I promise to not dox anybody. Unless they say the magic word, then I might. Dude, these hills are so fucking cool. And driveway? Hell yeah. Somebody's living it up out here. Imagine the GPSs in your combine or your tractor just doing its absolute damnedest to plot out how to plow this. It's like, sir, you got to figure this out on your own. There is no way in hell we are going to give you any sort of plowing and combining and harvesting path that makes any sort of sense. Like, you kind of just have to know your land and take notes one year and be like, oh man, we are kind of light in this area here. Let's focus on this other area a little bit more. Cool road right there. Oh, Mr. Airbus, welcome back. I don't see why someone would say, please tell everyone my... Well, why wouldn't they? I mean, like, you don't want to be famous? You don't want people to send you cool free stuff? I'm pretty sure somebody sent Nathan a stuffed banana. Oh, that's a power line right there. Let's fly under it. That's the correct thing to do, right? You've been here. Hell yeah, you've been here. You's a homie. Do you just have me on the background to where I'm just chatting away? Or do you have the volume off so it's just kind of a visual thing? I'm curious what the viewing setup is. Because there's always like the big streamers. Okay, everybody, if you want to send anything to old Georgia Plain Spotting, he lives in... Is that a slur? Damn, I was saying something right before that, but I don't remember what I was going to say. Okay, right now, this is Moscow, Idaho, everybody. And we're actually going slightly across the state border to the Pullman Airport. Have you on in the background. And I look at my phone every once in a while. Okay. I know a lot of people that are big PC guys will have like a second screen. And like the big thing for streamers is like, man, if I could be somebody's second screen, that would be cool. Because like if they're doing whatever on their first stream or playing the game themselves, but have the streamer up on the second stream, that's like, oh hell yeah, we made it. Which like a thing I never thought about, but it's like, man, if you're important enough for somebody to keep you open to listen to you yap and talk about whatever, and that's pretty cool, you know. The only reason I'm slowing down is I'm going to try to point out stuff that I remember here. Now I believe that Nathan and them have a shop that they do like Cerakoting and gun stuff at. And I believe it's like up over here-ish. Nathan lives somewhere in this area. I'm wobbly as shit right now. I am absolutely sorry for that. Okay, shut up. I'm not putting my landing gear down. You have not earned that right, helicopter, to tell me what to do. Yeah, I'm pretty sure Nathan and Noah and them, they all live somewhere. I don't know where Noah lives, actually. Yeah, see, I had the window open. Were you not here for that part? I've got a window. And I could also do this. The helicopter just doesn't look as cool with the door open, as you can imagine. So, I don't really care to do that too much, but it is available. Ernie Shelton Drive, Columbus, Georgia. Not my real address. Yeah, and then the gym that they use is over here somewhere. I forget where that was. I kind of remember where they said that the Cerakoting shop that they do all the gun stuff with. Like I said, I know Nathan lives somewhere on this side of town, relatively close to the main strip. So I would assume it's somewhere from like here over to the main strip, and somewhere between here and up there. So if you want to go find Nathan, as far as I remember, he said PvP is allowed. But I don't know if that's in random times or if that's like a full-time thing. But also, Nathan's been going to a gym with another homie named Noah, and Noah happens to be the purveyor of a company. Ernie Shelton Drive is the road the airport's on. Oh, cool. Dude, living near an airport would be sick. A lot of people complain about noise, but dude, me and Dino would be having a ball. And if you don't know Dino, he's my dog. He loves helicopters too, because he knows I'm retarded enough to run outside and check out helicopters whenever they fly over. So he was always like, hell yeah, whenever this thing is making noises outside, I get to go outside, because my dad goes outside to see them. So, he figured out or associated the noise of helicopters flying over with me taking him outside, and he would always see me looking up, so he's looking as well. And then he started noticing that sound by himself, and then finding me whenever he hears the sound, and then bringing me outside so that way I can see the helicopter. And he taught himself that. And that was after I realized what he was doing. He did it like 3 times in one day, and I was like, there's no way that my dog is letting me know that there's a helicopter outside. That's way too fucking cool. To be a helicopter enthusiast and have your dog self-train himself to find you when a cool helicopter is going over, that is so damn cool. Like, I don't even know how to explain how happy I was when I figured out what he was doing. But yeah, he will legit hear a helicopter, find me, tell me to go outside, and point at helicopters. And he's just my dog. Literally just my dog. And that's cool as shit. So, shout out to Dino. I don't know where I was going with that, but I figured everybody wanted to hear about Dino. But, oh yeah, anyways, Noah. They go to a gym here, or Nathan met him going to a gym here. Cool guy, very based, his gun stuff and everything as well. But he's a purveyor of a company that does... my dog is way too stupid for that. He has a company that just recently came out with his own pre-workout. I mentioned it to Sean earlier. But a Clean Muscle LLC. If you want some all-natural stuff, hits hard because it's all natural. None of this fake stuff to try to be filler or whatever. Yeah, Clean Muscle LLC's got one flavor now. We're trying to convince them to do some other ones. Make sure you do the appropriate scooping or keep your water level lower because a higher concentration tastes better for sure for me. But super quality product. I'm very happy with the pump and the energy I've been getting from it. So if you're watching this now or later, all three of us in here right now, or anybody watching this in the future where they're wild enough to want to watch this entire series all the way through, and hit them up, you know, get some good stuff. Support a homie who's a good homie. And I told them I'd kind of fly over and do a shout out, not that it matters from my huge, endless reach of this YouTube channel. But, yeah, it's good stuff. I support it. He sent me a bottle for free, so that's a disclaimer in that. But as soon as I run out, I do plan on purchasing one with my own money. With no discount, because I don't ask my homies for discounts. Yeah, Dino, the dog, super dope. Had to go to my friend's baby's birthday party today, so I didn't bring him with me. I feel bad because he was snuggling good this morning. And I got up, we went outside a little bit, threw the ball for like 10 minutes. And then I was like, sorry, bud, I gotta go. And then I went to the friend's place, and I was up there until 8. We usually go get a calzone on Saturdays. And we didn't get to go get a calzone today. So he's been very upset. Let's see, Pullman, Moscow traffic. This is helicopter 42069. We are approaching from the east. We're going to be heading down, landing at your fuel box, and if we don't have a new helicopter in the morning, we're going to be very upset and we're going to commit acts of terrorism. Helicopter 42069. I keep signing off with my tail number, but I should be signing off with readdressing the traffic, so it'd be more like a Pullman Moscow traffic helicopter 42069 coming in to land on runway something 2 mile final Pullman Moscow traffic, because I'm pretty sure it's an untowered airport. But anyway, it's supposed to end with who I'm talking to, so that way they can be like, if they don't listen the first time, they hopefully hear the name the second time, and they're like, oh, wait, somebody was saying something. So then they'll know to be alert. So we're going to come in. We're still at 100 knots. We just did a big old G loop there. I'll lower my collective now. Start pulling back on the cyclic, and we're going to be out of here before midnight, boys. It is a day. And that's partially in part to this a beautiful machine of a Bell 222 Bravo. Such a good looking thing. I'm curious if I were to put my little window up here, put my window up there, does that change the view on the outside? Because they were open from the outside. Oh yeah, it does close it. Very cool. Okay, steep approach. Let's go. Still doing 80 though, goodness me. They have got a runway set up here, don't they? Did they just not make up their mind on where they want to fucking land? What is going on? Okay, let's look for the fuel truck's gear down. Well, not fuel truck, but fuel farm. I believe it's further down the runway down here. Let's see what beeps at me. Yep. This parking brake is off. Something that should be confirmed before you touch down, because you don't want to kind of hurt yourself when you hit the ground. Obviously. I believe the fuel farm is going to be... Yeah, there it is right there in front of the Sanger. Perfect. Hopefully nobody's in our way. Before I land, let me go look at this thing over here real quick. To me, it looks like there's a windsock directly in the middle of this taxiway. Now, maybe I'm just stupid. Maybe I'm just dumb. But to me, looks like there's a windsock right there. Let's see. Just look, it's not like that in real life. It's just something with a sim. Weird. I wonder if it's something where it used to be one way, then they changed, but then the satellite imagery for the runway doesn't match up with what they planned out things to be. Because you can see where the photogrammetry ends. Right there, where the aftermarket runway gets put onto it. So I'm going to look again at this place from satellite imagery, but it may be where they had it one way, then there's something happened. They're like, okay, cool, we're actually going to change it to runway 24 instead of 23. Or whatever. And that would make sense to me. To where they changed, so maybe a historic satellite view. You'd probably even change, because what were the runway numbers down here? Runway 9 and runway 11? No, those are the dashes. I'm fucking retarded. 23 and 24. Sideways decel. Give people that little show of a swing. Come down here, already doing 50 knots. That is rotation speed for a little Cessna, buddy. We're going to set down here on the ramp, do a pedal turn to the right. Set down and pull our little happy ass into a swing next to the fuel farm. I'm not going to hover next to it because we have wheels for a reason. Gear is down. Roll that cushion and push through the cushion. Boom. Cool. Now forward on the cyclic and a little bit of up on the collective to take the weight off. Steer this bad boy in there, but give us enough room. The hose is surely long enough, but my rotors are wide. Skirt. Done. Parking brake on. Roll the throttle down to a bit more of an idle position. Not turning it off. Yes, this airport is across the state line. So we are actually in our last state for the Con-US crossing. Cool, cool, cool. Temperatures are going down appropriately. All the ends are good. Oil temp's good. Everything's doing what it should be doing. Turn that off, that off. We're going to turn it off fuel-wise. That's the button that doesn't work. That way. Turn those off. NG's all the way down. Rotor is spinning down. Blah, 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 blah. Blah, blah, blah. Then everything's open. Everything's appropriately closing. We can close those little doodads there. Turn off the interconnectors on that. Turn the battery off mine as well. Is there a rotor brake on this bad boy? I feel like there is. I just don't remember where it is ever. There's gotta be, right? Either way, I'm gonna hop out of this bad boy. Shift C. Look at that beast! What up? What a beautiful helicopter. Turn the volume up for me. I don't want y'all enjoying this without me. Very cool. Let's see. Between 2015 and 2022, they moved and extended the runway. Okay, cool. So they're probably working on older data for something. Whether it was older data for like runway mapping and stuff like that, but I feel like they would have updated that. Jump. Boy, that's unnerving standing up. Holy crap. I'm gonna sit back down in my little chair. It's not as scary. I don't like going out in public like that. Let me pull up my map real quick so I just want to look at it on Google to see which one it shows. Interesting. Looks like a very quality redo of the runway and everything. Anyways, look how thick these blades are. Very cool. If you're not familiar with the Bell 214, it's a Huey type helicopter, but it has this huge thick Bell blade on it. This is very similar to what you'd see on like the Cobras. And I think the 214 uses the same blade, or at least the same wild thickness for a two-blade helicopter. But the 214 is very cool. There's only one in the United States, actually. The company from Australia did send one up for vertical VAI this year, which is very neat also. Also, this is not an American aircraft. This is an ET tail number, which is what? Ecuador? I honestly have no idea. I'm not exactly a world flag person. But, yeah. We made this leg. It's been our bitch. In flight. Let's do a quick peek at what we got in store for next, or whatever. Who's that? Somebody down in Lewiston? I saw a green plane, unless they just logged off. Anyway, so currently we're up here in Pullman, Moscow. Up here's that lake that I was saying that's 1,000 feet deep that they do the naval stuff at. But I didn't think it was worth going all the way up here for today, because I already have plans to hit like a Mount St. Helens and stuff tomorrow, or whatever the next day is. So here to here and up to just about to leave the country tomorrow. And then we're going to start bouncing our way up here, hitting a lot of these coastal airports, which I'm going to have to vet ahead of time to make sure that they're in range for us, or we may have to do shorter jumps and multiple shorter jumps during the day where there's multiple fuel stops, because a lot of these are like that's a water, like that's you can see the runway markers here. You're in the bay, but they do have some places with paved runways nearby. So we'll be doing fueling at places with paved runways. Or if I can confirm that there is a heliport where it's not just a random helipad somewhere, where it's like a fully supported heliport where they would probably keep fuel, I'll research that. Yeah, you did. You were here the whole damn time. Appreciate it, dude. Yeah, so we're gonna have this be a 1 day, 2 day, 3 day, 4 days. So another week until Anchorage about. If it stays like this, unless it snows again, because this actually reflects what the ground covering is at the moment pretty well, we may do this jump and cut here. But if this is all going to be snow, it might be worth it to take an extra 2 or 3 days to go around the outside here. Then we're doing this. Russia's going to be miserable. Absolutely miserable. Like, I was looking at possibly doing this, but then there's like 2 places here. There's a heliport or an airport here at this one, and then the next one that's viable is down here. Which, that's an airplane right there. Yeah, that's an airplane. So yeah, so that's a huge jump there. Doable, but boring. And also, I don't know if it's this one. It might be this one, but this one's like an old Russian base, and there's like nothing on the island, so it's marked as a heliport or as a runway. Yeah, this is it. So, old decrepit runway. And there are paths going through the island. I was looking at this on Google Maps, and it comes like all the way back out here where there's like some barrack housing somewhere way back in the bush. But like, this obviously isn't a viable airport to land at. I mean, you can even see they have trenches dug in. So this is purely a military island with a military airport where they could land in emergency if they wanted to and have a safe place to land. But it's not a refill airport. It's not somewhere that we're stopping on the path. So that's just a heliport there. Second border post, yeah. So like, for our Russian jump when we get up here, I feel like we're going to do Nome to over here to maybe a long water day there. That's what? 14, 30, 100 miles of water or so. Probably worth it to do that jump from there to there instead of throwing on an extra 40 miles that way. Or even down here, but we'll have to look at and vet all these airports to see what's what and really plan ahead. But there's still like 2 weeks until we get to Russia. So I'm not going to So yeah, Alaska is going to be next weekend, I believe. Anchorage in 7 days isn't unrealistic. And I don't think I have anything planned, really, this week to throw me off of a streaming schedule. I know I told Mikey, my friend who I was at today, like, he's doing some home renovation stuff, so I'll be helping out with that. But dude, Alaska doesn't look like it's going to be that bad snow-wise. This little stretch, I mean, well, I guess Alaska, Canada doesn't look like it's going to be that bad. This bit of Alaska may suck, but I don't think it's going to be that bad. But I plan on coasting it. I don't want to inland, really. I'd rather coast it. Because I think this jump right here is going to be pretty cool. So this will be a day or 2 days of suck. This is going to be a long day here, but I want to do this in 1 day. And this will be a week of suck. And honestly, once we get past that, and we're kind of getting down into the more China adjacent areas, which China's down here. Once we start hitting like the southeastern Russia and Siberia, it's going to get better. But honestly, once we get to here, and I can make this jump over to Japan, it's going to be such a fun flight. There are going to be so many good days. I mean, everything. I might take more time going through Japan and kind of zigzagging and check shit out. We're going to island hop down here, hit Taiwan, jump over to Shanghai or Hong Kong. Or is it Hong Kong or Shanghai? One of those is just across the water. Golly, I don't know. Anyway, there's Jing. Do they even try to make the names not sound like stereotypical? Jeez. 30th, 1st, or 2nd because of a trip to coastal Georgia. Hell yeah. I might tune in and say hey, though. Hey, if you're here, if you're not, always appreciated. Like I said, regardless if I have 0 people watching or 1,000 people watching, I'm going to be doing this anyways. But it just makes it nicer when homies are in here saying hey and hanging out. But yeah, dude, from as soon as we hit Japan, this will be fun. It'll be a long ocean, couple of longer ocean trips, so we'll probably jump small island just for the shit of it. And there's a whole bunch of little places, so we'll kind of, instead of long jumping, we'll maybe bounce it back and forth. So this will kind of be a rough day or two, but not that bad. Because I don't think I want to do this jump. I'd rather come straight down here. But dude, once we get over here, it's going to be beautiful places and mountains and valleys. Come over here, we're going to jump India and avoid it completely. Fly in the Himalayas. Afghanistan's going to be long. It's going to be long and boring. But I also think it'll be relatively exciting too. I plan on looking up different battles and informations, and we're going to hit different things like that. We're going to hit the UAE Peninsula down here. Fly up and over here, avoid Iraq. We're not even going to do Gaza Strip area, Turkey, anything over there. We're going to pyramids, Benghazi, because LOL. Like Croatia, Greece, Italy. We'll do a European tour-ish sort of thing. Why is it so bright right? Oh, that's mountains. Those are just a shit ton of airports, kind of like over here. But we'll kind of bounce different places up through here. And of course, boring day, boring day, boring day, kind of exciting day, boring day. Because those are just going to be ocean jumps. And then boring getting back down to a normal-ish area of Nova Scotia area. And then I want to do Florida before coming back up to Georgia. But, yeah. We're looking good. We basically crossed the country now. We're in our last state. But, let's go to Kai Tak. Is that the name of the airport, or is that, Kai Tak International? Oh, dude, we'll definitely be flying by there. Because if we're jumping Taiwan over to a mainland, we'll definitely be going Kai Tak. Yeah, that's Hong Kong. Hell yeah. I know they got a good place there. We'll swing through there and we'll bust some airspaces and do a tour deserving of a helicopter. Yeah, I think we are going to call that for the day. It is past midnight now for me, which no big deal. We went later yesterday, but time to get out of here, call it good, and get rested up because we got to do it again tomorrow. But dude, thanks again for being here. You better go through. Yeah, we'll come through Columbus just for you. I'll make sure it's a day that you'll be there, even if you'll be gone. Because it was, 2-3 months from now, so we can't plan that far ahead. But if you'll be gone those days, then I'll sit off days, because you're a legend and you've earned flying through Columbus. But, yeah, until then, we're going to get out of here. I'm gonna eat some yogurt and get the hell out of here. But once again, we're here.